taxes was taxing. Now taxes is relaxing when you file for free.
I can file for free? TurboTax Free Edition. Roughly 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns only. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free. I can file for free.
Now this is taxes. File for free with TurboTax Free Edition and get your maximum refund. No schedules except for Earned Income Tax Credit, Child Tax Credit, and Student Loan Interest. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free.
Coming up on episode 234 of Wheel Bearings, we've got Ford Broncos, Land Rover Defenders, Hyundai Tucsons, Nissan Sentras, the new Alfa Romeo Tonale and an NFT, a bigger mountain, and round up the Chicago Auto Show. All that and more coming up next. Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. This is Wheel Bearings, episode 234. I'm Sam Abdul-Samad from Guidehouse Insights.
I am Nicole Wakeland from Auto Vital.
And I am Roberto Baldwin from Tom's Guide.
And Mr. Tom's Guide, what have you been driving?
Mr. Tom's Guide has been driving the 2021 Land Rover. The 2021 Land Rover Defender 110 SE. I drove the 90, the little two-door one, I don't know, probably a year ago? I don't know, it was a while back. And this is the four-door version of the vehicle. I was very excited. I really, really like the Land Rover. This is where I put the sort of these types of vehicles in the world. There's the G-Wagon at the top, then you have the Defender, then you have the Bronco, and then you have the Wrangler. Now, I'm not saying that's the order in which they are best to worst or whatever. That's just the order and how much money you're going to spend. And so if you're looking for something that's a little bit more, well, actually, you might be able to get a Defender for less than a Bronco right now.
Yeah.
Considering
or a Wrangler for that matter.
Or a Wrangler, considering like the markups. I haven't been to a JLR dealership. I should probably do that sometime this week and just look, because I know these things are doing very well. They're all over the place, especially in Los Angeles, where the G-Wagon is king of vehicles that are made to go off-road and do not go off-road. So I think that, JLR has done a really good job with this vehicle, reintroducing it, making it look cool, making it not only available as for some people who are very excited about the past, nostalgia, but also, bringing it up to speed in the modern times, as the kids would say. I drove it up to Tahoe. I went snowboarding with it, and I specifically requested this vehicle for that trip because I knew it had off-road tires. I knew that I'm like, oh, it's going to be awesome. We're going to go up there. It's going to be snowy. I'm going to be able to drive it on the snow. But then global warming kind of poo-pooed all that. It was very nice and warm. It was like 45, 50 degrees on the slope. The snowboarding was great though. It's tough to beat Lake Tahoe for snowboarding. Literally any mountain is pretty great. But we did, me to my friends, two snowboards, a set of skis. I did not know a skier would be going with us. So we'll figure that out later. We'll have a discussion with that friend. But it was comfortable the entire way. It was surprisingly quiet considering it had off-road tires. It's really nice to drive. It's very high off the ground. At the same time, if there had been snow, I would have felt completely comfortable just driving over snow. If we had to drive up some sort of weird dirt road in order to get to the mountain, I would have been fine. I really like this vehicle because the interior is all the rubbery mats and everything. So when you're going snowboarding or surfing, or you have dogs or children or anything that makes a mess, other humans, then it's nice to have something you could just hose off because it has these rubber.
Something you don't feel bad about using, based on its name, Rover, Land Rover.
Yeah,
Be able to rove the land and wear some of the land inside and still be okay.
Exactly. This is kind of one of my issues with some of the very fancy trucks, the luxury vehicles, the F-150s that have been luxed out. And you get in and you're like, you don't want to get anything dirty. And in my brain still, and this is just me, if you want to buy a big truck and just that's your luxury vehicle, fine. But for me, like I should be out in a field, getting dirty, getting gross, going to Home Depot, picking up stuff, picking up rocks, picking up, 70, 80 tons of mulch, and then be able to get into the vehicle and not really worry that my shoes are a mess. And that's what you can do with the Defender. I really liked it. It supports Android Auto and CarPlay. So there's that. If you're not too keen on their infotainment system, which I believe that it's gotten better over the years. I think before I was fine with the interface. But it was always like this infotainment system that had this weird like sort of fade in and a fade out like feature, and you never knew if it was a feature or a bug. You're like, is this really slow or is this just like it's supposed to be like that? So I think they got some people to sort of fix that after everyone was like, well, what is this? I got 19.8 miles per gallon, which is pretty good. It's a lot of highway driving, but it was also highway driving up a mountain. Their EPA is 19 combined, so that's pretty much on par. It's a big car with 3 people, 19. That's pretty good. It's still pretty low for when you think about the rest of the world outside of large SUVs and trucks. The version I got, MSRP was $62,700. So yeah, a lot. And then they threw some other stuff. It had the panoramic sunroof, which was really pretty. 3-zone climate control, 14-way heated and cooled front seats, and all the other. Plus, and I think this is the deal of the century from a luxury automaker. Off-road tires, $350. I don't know. It just seemed like cheap.
Yeah, that does seem cheap for that car. Not for
this car.
Cars.
Yeah, for the car, but for that, yeah. So anyway, I was driving essentially a $70,000, $69,195. So $70,000, really fancy Jeep is what I like.
fancy.
But I really like the Defender because there's so many cubby holes to put things in. Like everything is like, you can put stuff here, 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 you can put stuff here. And when you go snowboarding, you always have all this extra crap that you're dragging with you. All these extra little, you got to get your gloves, and I don't want to drive my wallet in my pocket. And then here's my phone, and then we stopped and got food, and I need somewhere to put that. And we get there's a little there's the pass that you bought. Where should I put that? And if you're smart, you put that all in a bag. But if that doesn't always work out for some people. Some people like to have things out where they can see them, and you can kind of put them out where you can see them with the Defender. And it is a weird name. It has a 6-cylinder, 3-liter 6-cylinder, 395 horsepower, 406 pound-feet of torque, 8-speed automatic, very smooth. You have all that power. It's a big car, so it has adequate amounts of power, is what it has. Maybe every once in a while, if you really want to push it, you can outrun.
So it's like an old Rolls Royce then.
Yeah. So but you also get the big, giant, full-size spare, so you look
I love
cooler.
that this has been compared to both a Rolls-Royce and a Jeep Wrangler in the same review, which is kind of awesome.
Which is exactly where the Defender sits. It's like it's like you're trying to merge this like rugged off-roadness with the luxury brand, and it's sort of it does a really good job of sort of balancing both of those. Land Rover Defender 110. I still like the 2-door. But that's because I don't have children. Yeah. So there you go.
Otherwise, you would not like.
I don't have an excuse. I don't have a reason for people sit in the back seat all the time. So I was like, if you want to ride with me, then that's what you have to deal with.
And with respect to the pricing, Jeeps have gotten very expensive as well. The Rubicon 392, the V8 powered Wrangler, that thing starts at $75,000.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
So, in terms of price that you were talking about earlier, I think those last few entries on that list that you had there, the Defender, the Bronco, and the Wrangler, I think are actually a lot closer than most people would expect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Bronco starts at 30, but as I've mentioned before, I'm pretty sure. I went to a dealership and they're like, yeah, the markup's $20,000 on this car. Yeah. So 30 for the meh-ish of the Broncos. So you're already talking about $50,000. Then all the random stuff. So now you're talking about 55, and you're like, oh, I could just get a Defender for less than that.
The $30,000 Bronco is the one that is usually bought by the most hardcore off-roaders who are going to be taking, they just want the basic pallet to start with, and then they're going to be putting on lift kits and big tires and winches and all kinds of other gear, and they're going to, by the time they're all done customizing it, they're going to be up in that $60,000-$70,000 price range anyway.
Easily, yeah.
Yeah. And the 90S, the starting price is $52,300. So, and you can get in the dope green, which I had it in before.
What's it called?
I don't know what it's called, but I know I call it dope green.
The way you said it, I'm like, wait, they can't possibly have called it. So that's Robbie's name for the color. I thought you were giving me a color name. I'm like, they called it what?
They called it dope green.
Dope green.
Oh, now I feel like if I don't tell people the real color, they're going to yell at me on the internet.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you don't yell at Robbie. I thought they actually called for half a second.
Where's the colors? Where's the colors?
Quickly, Robbie,
hurry. I give it up. I don't care. You can look it up. You have the internet. You're listening to this.
You have the Googles. Google.
You have the Googles. Anyway. So, Land Rover 110. Dope vehicle.
Dope vehicle in dope green, but not actually dope green.
If you're going to go off-road but you also want to look fancy. Or if you just want to look fancy, which is I'm sure a lot of them are being sold. 95% of these will probably go off-vehicle or off-road 3 times.
Or the most they'll go off road is just a gravel driveway up to their
summer cabin.
Yeah, their summer cabin in Lake Tahoe. Somewhere.
That's the most aggressive off-roading it will ever see.
They're all turning the little dial. They have that cool control system where you have all these buttons, but you also have these knobs. And if you push the knob, it goes from controlling the temperature of the car to you push it, and then it controls the heat or the cooling of the seat. And then there's little buttons next to it, and if you push a button next to it, it's the rear profile of the vehicle. You can use it to change the drive mode. So these little knobs do 3 different things, and I really like it because I'm like, you're not losing buttons, but you get a button that does a lot of different little things. And once you sort of figure it out, it takes 2 minutes. So it's not like, oh, they overthought this, it's too difficult. No, it's fine.
I had to sit with someone yesterday who has a Mazda and was so frustrated with the infotainment system. She threw her hands in the air and said, "Can you just sit in the driveway with me for 5 minutes and show me how this works?" Talk about confusing buttons. I said, "Yes, I could do that with you."
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Nicole, what have you been driving?
I have been driving. Well, I actually had 2 different vehicles this week.
Brag.
For most of the week... For most of the week, I had a Hyundai Tucson, which is all new for 2022. Gave it, the whole 9 yards, styling updates, better in every way kind of situation. You can get a hybrid, a plug-in, or a gas engine. I have the gas engine, which is a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, 187 horsepower, 178 pound-feet of torque. So it's a decent, responsive engine. I think you can do front wheel or all-wheel drive. We have all-wheel drive because everything that comes to New England will have that for the next few months. It handles well. It's a nice car. I love actually the styling on this. They gave it this very angular metal, like the way the side panels are, like the doors.
Look to it.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I think it's just different. It makes it stand out a little bit because there's so many cars, crossovers, SUVs, whatever you want to call them, of this size that they all kind of blend into one thing. And this one truly stands out. When I was taking pictures, I was noticing it looks really good. They did a good job differentiating it without going crazy, like the front end of the Avalon, I think it was. They went nuts to make it look sporty at one point, and it was like, oh my God, what has happened to this vehicle? No, they just had a little bit of, little sculpting, like you said, faceted. It's a perfect way to describe it. So it looks really good. Great to drive. It's a nice, smooth vehicle. We had some snow. It had no problem dealing with the snow and the ice and the muck that was on the road, and still leaving you fairly confident and in control, even when it was that the worst stuff, which is that sort of packed down snow and ice that the plows don't really get off the road until the storm is over. So I appreciated that. It is not really an off-road vehicle. Like Robbie said, this isn't as capable as his car, but it also, I think, will go off-road no more than to somebody's much cheaper cabin in a much less extraordinary space. So it's not, you can, yes, but you can't really. So that's kind of, your capability-wise. The interior is really roomy. You've got seating for 5. I had the limited trim, which sits right at the top of the lineup. So, and I don't have a Monroney, so I kind of sort of tried to build it. So you're looking at around $40,000-ish for it if you're getting that top trim, depending on what you decide to put on it. But you get standard things for that price. You're going to get heated front and rear seats. My daughter gets so excited when the rear seats are heated. She's like, I can turn on the seats too. So she doesn't feel like she has to fight to sit up front and boot my husband to the back, which is kind of funny. So that's always like big bonus. There's a 10.25 infotainment screen, which is really nice. I love big infotainment screens. I just think the tiny ones, when you get in a car now that has a small one, the small ones really are harder to read. You don't realize how much of a difference a larger screen makes until you get in a car. Go find a car that's maybe like 5 years old and had an infotainment screen and try to use whatever that car had. And it's so small, you suddenly think, oh, there's a reason they're becoming massive. It makes a really big difference in how well you can view what's on there. You get a Bose audio system. Of course, there's CarPlay and Android Auto. And it has a lot of cargo room. I was trying to double check it as we were getting on the air. I believe it was 41.2 cubic feet for cargo is what I have written down.
I think that's with the seats folded down.
With the seats folded down? Okay, so I think it's 41.2 with the seats folded down. That's a good amount of room for cargo. I mean, you can fit a lot back there. I appreciate that because when you're getting an SUV, yes, it has to do that double duty. It has to have room for people, but it has to have room for your cargo. And depending on the moment, you have some combination of, or you just have one or the other. Actually, I'm double checking. 41.2 is with the seats up.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Okay.
Wow,
I just found it.
That's a lot because most crossovers in this segment are usually somewhere around 20.
That's what it says. Capacity
26 and 30.
Rear seats up, 41.2. Rear seats folded, 80.3.
Okay. Well, they did make this new Tucson quite a bit bigger than the last generation.
Yeah. So, and it feels that way. Like when you look in the back, it is surprisingly cavernous. So the numbers don't surprise me. So that's a lot of stuff. Even 41, when you have a full load of like 5 people, that's easily the family's luggage, whatever you're putting in there to go away for the weekend, or if you're camping, it's all of your stuff and luggage. And if you need to really haul stuff around for a project, 80.3 cubic feet. That's pretty good.
That's a lot of room.
That's a lot of room. And it goes down a little. If you're looking at the hybrid and you're like in the plug-in, the numbers drop a little bit when you go to the hybrid. Like the max is 80. They drop a bit more when you go to the plug-in. It's 71.8. So, batteries, whatever. So you lose a little bit of cargo room once you go with those, but you gain the efficiency. I know, whatever. Come with a better design. So you lose that, but that's typical of any vehicle that has both a gas engine and a hybrid and a plug-in. You're going to get different cargo capacity. So overall, I like this, but I'm a fan of Hyundai because I feel like they pack so much in. Like this, like I said, this came in just under 40. Is the, I haven't added anything to make my car fancier. And it's already pretty fancy. Like you can always add stuff to it. But for that just under 40, you're getting a lot. You don't have to then spend $10,000 on additional options to get heated rear seats. No, that comes standard. You're at the top of the line, have all the fancy stuff. So I appreciate the fact that it's nice to drive. It's nice inside. It looks good. It has good cargo room and it's very comfortable and it feels upscale without you having to break the bank. Like if you don't care if it says Hyundai on there, if you're not someone who needs it to say BMW, it needs to say Infiniti, it needs to say something fancy, this is a great choice. So
before you move on to the other car you had, let's hit one of the questions that we got from a listener this week. And it came up on Twitter after you posted the the picture of the front end of the Tucson, which
Where
has
is
a
this?
very distinct look with the way the headlights are done. You've got all these little triangles.
Yes.
And when they're off, they almost kind of blend into the bodywork. They're not really that visible, but when you turn them on, these lit
They
up
look
triangles
really
show up.
cool. I was pulled up against like a glass storefront, and to see the reflection of the lights,
Yeah.
it looks really cool. They're really
So-
striking.
The Nth Degree Burns asked, it says it's definitely distinctive when you see one coming at you on the road. I'd be curious what you all think about the cost of replacing one of those headlights or just the bulbs will be in the long term. And I don't know. I haven't actually looked to see what it's got. If there's like one or two bulbs. I think there's probably just a couple of bulbs that are behind that front structure, that are lighting that up. But I could be wrong. I don't know.
I'm digging right now. I don't honestly know what is, and I'm looking to see if they say. So scanning through to see if they say, because it was all new, they probably talk about the light somewhere if I can find it in here. I might have an answer for you by the end of the show. How's that? Because I can
Okay.
scan through some of this as we are chatting. I can double check it. And if I can get an answer, then I can at least maybe tell you what you're looking at when you're having to replace those lights. I'll see what I can dig
But my
up.
guess is if you got into a fender bender and cracked one of those corners, that would probably be pretty expensive to replace.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what insurance is for.
I think these are LEDs, right?
I believe they are. That's what I'm looking. I'm double checking. I was caught off guard by the question.
So if they are LEDs, then chances are they'll probably last the life of the car. So you'll
Right.
probably never have to actually replace the bulbs. But if they're not, then that could get kind of complicated just because of the way this thing is built. There might be multiple bulbs, but definitely if you were to crack that front fascia in some kind of little accident, that could probably get very pricey.
It's going to be pricey. Yeah, but I'm betting they're LEDs, and I can't find it, of course, because somebody asked me. But yeah, and those will last probably longer than you will want to have your Hyundai Tucson. So
The 2021 Tucson LEDs are $100. The lamp.
$100 a lamp.
Yeah. Well, I think it's for the pair actually.
Wait.
Hold on. I just find it on Headlight Expert.
Oh,
Oh, this is the LED conversion kit. Oh, because this is
Oh.
the 2021 version. All right, I don't see this funny. I feel like we're just going to be sitting here on
yeah. So
looking stuff up.
the LED headlamps are standard on the 22 Tucson.
Okay.
So chances are you'll never have to worry about replacing those bulbs.
Unless you're in an accident, then your
yeah.
insurance is replacing them for you.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's the good side.
All right.
Okay. So
So
that
next
was the
question.
Next
Or-
question.
or next car.
Next car. I know you've now skipped to the end of the show. We're done, folks.
Done, everybody. Thanks for playing.
So the other car that I've had, and I've had this only very briefly because we were doing the New England Motor Press Association winter vehicle testing this weekend. So we all drove down to the place where we do all this, and then I drove back in a different car for a couple of days. So I have this like for a hot minute, but I drove it for almost 3 hours because it's a very long drive back and forth. I had a 2022 Nissan Sentra, which is a great sedan. It's comfy, but it's interesting. I took it last night because I've only had this for, like I said, for like 48 hours is all I'm going to get with this thing. And I took it last night, drove it down into the city, and I drove a friend. And it was interesting just judging the ride of it. It was snug, like getting like the way the center console comes past you as you to buckle in your seatbelt, like the way it comes down. It's a little snug. It's a little tight. It's almost like it's a great little cockpit for me as the driver, because yay, cockpit. But if you're the passenger in that front seat, it's a little bit on the tightish side, especially it's 8 degrees. Oh, now it's 28. It was 8 yesterday. So we're wearing these like bulky winter coats. You're hopping into the car. It gets a little bit cumbersome. And the only other thing that, my passenger commented on this. She said it's really noisy in this thing. Like the road noise and the wind noise. There was a lot of it in the Sentra, which was sort of surprising. So it handled really nicely, but I thought, you know what, she's right. Like I'd just gotten out of that Tucson. The Tucson, despite being big, bulky, square-ish SUV thing, was very, very quiet. And the Sentra, theoretically sleek, sexy sedan thing, was actually noisier to drive, which feels bizarre, but that was the case. But fun to drive. You get a 2-liter 4-cylinder. It's got 149 horsepower, 146 pound-feet of torque. Those aren't ginormous numbers. They're like numbers, but it's perfectly fine.
They're good enough.
They are good enough.
Where are you going? Where are you doing?
I know,
racing?
really.
You're not racing.
I'm not racing. I'm not racing.
You're going
in
to
my
the
Sentra.
Walgreens. You're going to the Walgreens to pick up cough syrup.
Going to Walgreens and going to the grocery store to get some milk, some eggs, some bread for the French toast I have to make during the blizzard. So it's not a super like engaging, aggressive drive, but it's fine. Sounds like you're insulting it, but it really is just fine. It's perfectly nice, mild mannered sedan. It's fine. So I liked it.
It's basic transportation.
Yeah, it's like, and the price on this, let me find it here. The one I have is the SR, and it was $27,000. So for $27,000, it's a decent deal. You got, all the infotainment stuff you want. You've got, an 8-inch screen, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, those standard things. You have, comfortable seats. You have nice seating surfaces. Everything, nothing feels cheap. It's 27. You don't think like, ooh, this is really cheesy. It feels nice inside. It's just a little bit on the snug side. If you like a little bit of a roomier sedan, it doesn't have that very roomy, open feel, and it's not going to be super aggressive. But I did like it. I mean, for the long highway drive that I did with it yesterday, it is a halfway decent little sedan. Just be aware that the wind noise and the road noise is a bit more noticeable than you would think.
And you can also get that Sentra for quite a bit less, at least sticker price, as long as you can find a dealer that's not putting an absurd markup on it.
Exactly.
It starts at $19,500, so with delivery, just over $20,000.
Even this one, the base on this trim, it says base is $22,000. We've added in fancy paint and floor mats. There's a lighting package. There's snazzy door sill plates. And there's a premium package that puts like LED headlights. And there's a power sliding glass roof. You get Primatex, which I think is like a imitation, seating trim.
Yeah,
you get a powered
faux leather.
Yeah, like a faux leather. Faux leather.
It's a faux leather.
Faux leather, and it also has a power driver's seat, and it's got heated front seats and a steering wheel. You got a Bose audio system that actually sounds really good. So I mean, for that 27, you have a nicely equipped sedan, and fuel economy on this, the EPA is 28 city, 37 highway. I did almost entirely highway driving, except when I pulled off the road to pull into my house and then pulled off the road for briefly at the place I was going to downtown in Boston last night. So with a 37 highway, almost all highway driving, I averaged 36. So I was pretty close to that number. Considering that when I pulled off, it was, downtown Boston craziness. So overall, I mean, I like it. I think it's sort of a value proposition. You're not getting an expensive vehicle. You're not getting a performance vehicle. If you want something that's nice and comfortable and you just don't want to spend a ton of money and you want good fuel economy, but you're not looking for that really sporty, aggressive vibe, 2022 Nissan Sentra.
All right.
Nissan Sentra.
And the vehicle I've been driving also had a 6 in the fuel economy number, but the first digit was a little bit lower, like it was a 1 instead of a 3. So,
wait,
I just saw what you were driving.
Well, there's a lot of words in this car, so the more words you put on a car,
that adds weight, increases the fuel consumption.
I feel like that is true. Like the more words they use to describe it, the worse your fuel economy is going to be. It's gotten so fancy. They're like, we have to distract you from that number. Read the name of the car.
The only automaker where that's flipped is Porsche with the Panamera.
Okay.
What's the whole name
hybrid,
for the parent?
Oh my God! I had to remember it for video. It's so long for the hybrid. Anyway,
Go
it's
ahead,
really
Sam.
long.
Tell us about your car as we pick on car names. Go ahead.
I had the 2021 Ford Bronco 4-door Advanced 4x4 Wildtrack Sasquatch. 5-passenger.
Say that 5 times fast.
So
it's the new Bronco, which everybody's been waiting for years. Finally, a true competitor to the Jeep Wrangler, in so many ways that vehicles like the Defender are clearly competitors to the Wrangler as well, but the Wrangler has had some, and in the past we've had the Toyota FJ Cruiser and others, but the Wrangler has stayed relatively unique in this segment, by having things like a removable roof and removable doors and all the customizability that you can get in a Wrangler. And the Bronco is really the first entry to kind of match all of those capabilities that Wrangler owners have had for decades. So the one I had, as I said, it's a 4-door hardtop Wildtrack with the Sasquatch package.
So many things.
Yeah, and it's EPA rated at for 17 city, 17 highway, and 17 combined, and I've averaged about 16 and a half. So I almost hit the EPA label numbers, which,
you were close.
Considering it's been cold and I was driving on a lot of snow and ice, was actually not bad. I mean, at least relative to the numbers, it's still pretty mediocre fuel economy for a brand new vehicle. You mentioned road noise. That is something I did notice quite a bit in this one, because it's with the Sasquatch package, it's got the big off-road tires on there.
Did you have the hard top or the soft top? I missed what you said.
I had the hard top.
Hard top. Okay.
So the soft top would be louder.
Yeah.
Wind noise is actually surprisingly not bad, given the shape of this thing. It's a very boxy shape. And they actually do a pretty decent job of controlling wind noise, but there's quite a bit of road noise coming through from those big 35-inch tires. And with the Sasquatch, you get the 35s with the beadlock wheels, beadlock wheels on there, so that when you're going off-roading, hopefully it'll hold the tires in place as you're crawling over those boulders and stuff. This has got all the goat modes and all the other nonsense. Having
the other nonsense. I'm sure they'll appreciate that. The other nonsense they put on this car.
I have a lot of feelings about goat mode that are we can talk about in a second.
Yeah, there are some really neat features that I think we talked about before when we did the first drive last summer, like the trail turn assist feature. I was out shooting photos of this thing in an area that was full of some pretty deep snow, and turned on the trail turn assist to quickly turn it around and get shots from a different angle. And what that does is, when you turn the steering wheel all the way to lock in either direction and then hit the gas, it will apply full brakes to the inside rear wheel and basically drag that wheel so that the Bronco just essentially turns around the inside rear wheel, so you have a very tight turning radius. Could have used that last week when I had the F-150 with its extremely long wheelbase. It could use a tighter turning radius.
They should do that on big pickup trucks.
Or
would be
just
amazing.
all-wheel turning. All-wheel turning is the greatest thing. After cruising around that EQS for a week with the 10 degrees of rear, oh man, I was every
that is
big
one
car.
advantage that the Chevy Silverado EV will have over the F-150 Lightning, because they will have four-wheel steering on that, whereas the Lightning will not have that, at least not in this generation. But anyway, back to the Bronco. This thing's pretty tall. It's quite a step up into it. One thing I noticed that I hadn't noticed when we did the drive last summer was when you're opening the tailgate, when you have the Sasquatch, the Bronco has the spare tire mounted on the tailgate, which is a side swing tailgate, and it has a full size spare, which means you have a 35-inch spare tire on there, those things are very heavy, and if you get a Bronco with the Sasquatch package, or even one without the Sasquatch package, if you ever park on a road that has on a surface that's not quite level, and it's tilted a little bit towards the driver's side, be very careful with that tailgate, because the hinge is on the right hand side.
Did it want to squish you?
And it will, unless you push it if you push it all the way open, then it'll latch there, and then you can pull it back, so it'll stay there. But if you open it part way just to throw a bag in the back, it will want to swing back down on you.
Oh, Jesus.
And it's very heavy. Did I mention
Kablam!
that it's heavy?
With a big ass.
Do you have the bruises to prove
I guess
it, Sam?
that's why everyone went with the hatches that pop up. I'm sure enough people were eaten by their car.
Yeah. Stuck in I'm trapped in my tailgate.
But seriously, if you want to go off-roading, the Wrangler, the Defender are probably the best vehicles, and probably the G-Wagon, if you can afford one of those, are among the top of what they'll go pretty much anywhere you could conceivably go. This one, as I said, has the 2.7 liter EcoBoost V6 in there, which is about 375 horsepower. It's got plenty of power. Even though the Bronco is not a lightweight vehicle, I think the the 4-door with the Sasquatch package and everything is somewhere well over 5,000 pounds curb weight. It's got plenty of get up and go. 10-speed automatic transmission is the only the only transmission available. This one is loaded, had the Copilot 360 package, Copilot 360 Plus with the adaptive cruise control and lane centering assist. It also has, if going back to what we were talking about earlier with the customization capabilities, you have the auxiliary switches up on the top above the mirror, so that if you're going to put in extra lights or any other things that need power, it's already pre-wired for all that stuff, so you have the switches there. Like the Defender, there's a lot of plastic and rubber inside, and in fact, Ford has actually built in one-way drainage plugs into the floor of this thing, so if you hose it out or you get water in there if you're going through a trail or through a stream or something like that, as soon as you get out of the water, it'll just drain right out through the floor, which is very handy for a vehicle like this. You can tell it's really designed to be used. Like most Wranglers, most Defenders, most of them will probably never be used as they're intended, but it has that capability.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah. List price on this one. Sticker or base MSRP for the 4-door advanced 4x4 is $49,475 with the Wildtrack package and the keyless entry keypad, which would be very handy on a vehicle like this. The hardtop. It also has the tow package, and it's got the bags in the back to store the doors in if you take the doors off. It's got bags for the doors and also the roof panels, which I didn't bother taking off this week because it's cold. Came to $58,420, and the destination charge was, by today's standards, a fairly modest $1,495.
Isn't it horrible that actually is a modest number
compared to
really
the Wagoneer, which was $2,000? Yeah,
exactly. And it's not even compared to most. It's a modest number. That's insanity.
The Land Rover is $1,350,
and it's got to come all the way from England.
It's got to come all the way from another country, from across the sea,
over the water.
This thing is built in a plant 20 miles away from me.
Is it built in this country? Because if it's not built, is it built over there and you have to fight across the border today?
No, it's built in Wayne, which is literally 20 miles east of me here.
Wow.
So that's the 2021 Ford Bronco Wildtrack Sasquatch.
Oh, so about the goat mode. Because
what's your beef with goat mode?
My beef with goat mode is greatest of all time, but that's very much like, it's like saying something is fleek, or that something is. In the 90s or the late 80s, I got a pair of skis in high school. I was very excited. I saved a bunch of money. My dad helped me out. I bought some skis. On the back of the skis, it said Radical. And I was like, well, that's cool.
You're dorky. Yeah.
And then, now Radical has come back, but there's a good 20 years where those skis, people would be like, what is wrong with this person? It's when you're using current lingo, like if I had gotten groovy mode on
groovy.
For what it's worth, I think Ford probably would not object to anybody defining goat as greatest of all time, but their official definition there is go over any terrain.
Yeah, it's greatest. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
I only just discovered.
It's like Watts to Freedom.
Yeah.
It's like WTF.
It's Watts to Freedom. What greatest of all time means, because I realized they were calling Tom Brady the GOAT, and I finally said to a friend, "Why do they call him a goat?" She's like, "They're not calling him a goat. They're and I had it explained to me very recently. I'm like, completely over my head. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Watts to Freedom. WTF in the Hummer. It's not. Yeah, it's. Okay, Watts to Freedom. All right. Go over any terrain. All right, Grandpa.
Grandpa.
Smartphones have gotten way more expensive over the past decade, and all it takes is one impact on a hard floor to make you wish you had spent a few bucks to put a case on it. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not having a case for your phone, and it only costs a few dollars a month. Nicole, Robbie, and I travel a lot for our work, and we spend a lot of time in hotels, coffee shops, airplanes, and of course, the Delta Sky Club. Connecting to the Wi-Fi in any public places with shared Wi-Fi puts your data at risk because bad actors could be intercepting what you send and using it to steal from you. It only takes some cheap hardware to intercept Wi-Fi data, and even a smart preteen can do it. Hackers can make up to $1,000 per victim selling personal information on the dark web. ExpressVPN stops the bad guys by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. ExpressVPN uses state-of-the-art encryption that would take a supercomputer up to 1 billion years to crack. I have ExpressVPN on all my devices, including a MacBook Pro, Windows laptops and desktops, and Android and iOS phones and laptops, or tablets. When I want to be secure, I just launch the app, click once to connect, and my data is secure. As I said, I travel a lot for my work, and I have to connect to countless public Wi-Fi networks in many countries. I have ExpressVPN on all my connected devices so that whoever else is on the same network can't see any of my data. That's important because I often have to check banks, credit card accounts, and transmit client data that might be sensitive, as well as filing articles on news that might be under embargo. ExpressVPN protects all of it, and I've been paying for my own account for years. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. That's expressvpn.com/wheelbearings, and you can get an extra 4 months for free. expressvpn.com/wheelbearings.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to paint their door a vibrant shade of blue. Others have the need to decorate their bathroom with fish, anchors, and other nautical items. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
All right. Let's start off with the only new vehicle that was actually announced this week, the week of the Chicago Auto Show, and was not announced at the Chicago Auto Show or even shown at the Chicago Auto Show, and that is the 2023 Alfa Romeo Tonale. Finally, we're finally seeing it in production form. Alfa's new compact crossover. It's actually, design-wise, it's very close to the original concept we saw 3 years ago, 2019, when they first showed it. Yeah, I think so, like 2.5 years ago. Any thoughts on the Tonale?
It looks like an Alfa. I mean,
it looks like an Alfa.
And that's sort of
baby Stelvio.
Yeah, what's funny is that when I had a Giulia, when I lived in the city, I'd have to park the cars on the street, and my neighbors knew what I did. And there was one guy who would always walk by with his dog, and he'd see Mercedes and BMWs, and he'd talk to me. But when I had the Giulia, because of the design, he's like, that doesn't seem like the kind of car you should leave on the street.
Right?
But I think Alfa's, like, their design language is very, very unique to them, which is good for them. But it also, for many people, they're like, oh, what is this? It gives them a little air of mystery.
I just love Alfas because they are different, because that triangular grille on the front.
The shield.
The shield. It's something that you don't have to be a car person, and you look at them and you're kind of like, what? I've never seen that before. Did you do something to a regular car? No, this is how this comes. I think the Tonale is a good one. I was kind of personally taken with the green Stelvio they had at the auto show. Did you see that, Sam?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was this brilliant green. It looked like an emerald, and I was like, I like them already. I'm like, and now you made one that looks like an emerald. Please stop trying to take my money.
take my money.
Yeah.
So the Tonale, as I said, is a compact crossover. They wouldn't talk about what platform it's on, but looking at the specs, it looks like it's basically a variation of the platform that's used for the Jeep Compass. It's got four-wheel strut suspension, and for North America, there's going to be two powertrain options. The same 2-liter turbo that you can find in the base Giulia and Stelvio, and as well as assorted Jeep vehicles and other vehicles from across the Stellantis lineup, and that's about 252 horsepower. Or the other powertrain option is a plug-in hybrid. It's Alfa Romeo's first electrified powertrain. It's a 1.3 liter turbo 4-cylinder up front with a 90 kilowatt electric motor at the rear axle that altogether gives you about 272 horsepower. So it's more powerful than the 2 liter 4-cylinder, and it's supposed to give about 30 miles of electric driving range. So this will be the first Alfa with a plug. Going forward, all new Alfas are going to have plug-in options. Some are going to be plug-in hybrids. Some are going to be battery electric. And then it's also got the Uconnect 5 infotainment system. And it also comes with an NFT.
Because everything's an NFT now. My dog's an NFT.
NFTs are cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's the goat of the digital world.
It's the goat.
I spoke with Larry Dominique, who's the head of Alfa Romeo North America, earlier this week, and we'll, after this segment, I'll drop in that interview there. But we talked about the NFT and what they're doing, and this actually seems like one of the first actually useful applications of NFT technology. Not about buying some silly illustration of an ape. For
come on, you're not getting my silly illustration of an ape. Dang
it's
it.
A bored ape. It's not just an ape. It's got a lot of time on its hands.
Yeah, well, it's not so much the illustration, but the amount of money that people are spending on these illustrations.
On the illustration,
that is ridiculous. So this won't actually cost you anything extra for the NFT, and what they're doing is they're using it as a way to record the service history of the Tonale. And they'll be applying this to other future vehicles as well. So when you take your car in for service, everything that's done to it will be recorded in the blockchain. So the idea is you have an unchangeable service record that is accessible to anyone. And the hope, the rationale that Alfa is giving for this is that they're hoping that this will help improve the resale value of Alfa Romeo vehicles. Because, as we've talked about before, Alfas don't have the greatest reputation for reliability.
No, you're making that up.
I mean,
Sam.
I've never had trouble with one when I've had one here as a loaner, but that's only for a week at a time.
Yeah.
I've never had one as a loaner. I've driven them at launches, but I've never had one for a week because I would steal it. I love them.
Now they're definitely never going to give you one now.
Now they're like, take Nicole off the list, quickly.
But would you pay extra for a used car? Any used car if you had an NFT service history of the thing?
It doesn't. I mean, you can just have a database. It doesn't need to be an NFT.
Right. But would I pay extra
but
regardless?
A database can be modified. Is the theory.
I mean, I guess if it's held in, if you have to have it done at Alfa, and Alfa's holding the database, the only people who can change the database are people at Alfa. And if you could just have every time someone accesses the database, it's the same thing. I mean, even if it's an NFT, if you take your car in, they're like, oh, we fixed something, and then as you drive away, they still have the unique, whatever login. They're like, hey, let's say we put 3 tires on it this week. I mean, the same thing could happen with the database. I mean, it's not. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's.
I think it's a neat idea to make it something that everybody can access very easily online, and that anybody could get to it. That needs to get to it, But I don't know that it would make me pay more for a used one. I would still just want to be having a mechanic check the car, make sure it was the car I wanted, that it didn't seem like it had been thrashed, had the number of miles, had a good price. I don't think having that would make me say, well, I'm going to give you an extra $2,000 because that NFT said that you did everything you were supposed to do maintenance-wise. I don't think that'd do it.
And you can also just get a Carfax.
Well, yeah.
Which has a little fox. So if the NFT had a little cute animal.
Do you know that it doesn't, Roberto?
I don't know that it doesn't. So if it has a cute, a fox, wears a shirt that says NFT, but I guess it wouldn't be the fox because then they'd be getting in trouble with the Carfax.
What would it be for an Italian car? Maybe just a picture of a little cup of espresso or cappuccino with a little shield logo on the top, a little steam rising up from it. Little Italian guy drinking it. No, okay.
It has to be a little animal. I feel like it has to be some sort of animal. What's
that's adding challenges now.
I'm sorry, a penguin maybe.
Penguin would work. Penguins are cute.
Yeah, something cute. A raccoon.
And right now, Alpha's like, "Are you
Saucy.
kidding me? We do this technology, and all you want is a cute animal."
Yeah, a saucy badger.
A saucy badger. Well, there's the title of the episode: A Saucy Badger.
Saucy badger.
Hold on.
Blockchain.
Yeah, he's right.
Saucy Badger. Got it.
Saucy badger. I'm sure I'm sure there are other things that the NFT will make it better than just a regular old database. But at the same time, I'm just like, oh, okay, sure. On the blockchain. I mean, everyone's been talking about putting things on the blockchain so you can keep track of it. NFT is just the latest thing.
Yeah.
You're Larry Dominique. You're now the head of Alfa Romeo North America. I think the last time I chatted with you a few years ago, you had just joined as head of PSA North America when they were planning to re-enter the North American market. And you've just launched a new product for the Alfa Romeo brand, the Tonale, a compact crossover. Let's start off with where does this vehicle fit into the overall market, and who do you see as the competitive set for the Tonale?
Yeah, the great news, Sam, is the compact premium SUV segment's one of the fastest growing premium segments, in our market, which is great. Some of the key competitors that we see out there today are things like the BMW X1 and the Mercedes GLA. I would say those are two of the highest volume competitors in that segment. And
what is it? What makes the Alfa special in this segment? I think those of us that are familiar with the Giulia and the Stelvio, have a pretty good idea of what Alfa wants to be. But how have you translated that into this smaller vehicle?
First of all, we just believe by having the Alfa Romeo logo on the front is the starting point, right? So Alfa Romeo as a brand with our 111-year history, Sam, has been a very consistent brand. No matter what segment you compete in, no matter which products you bring out, we tend to deliver Alpha-ness first, which means, first of all, very not like the Germans. It's a very different execution. For us, it's about performance and beauty, in everything we do. So just taking a step back and looking at, the 2019 concept vehicle for Tonale and how we've translated that into the production version, I think you're going to see, unlike a lot of concept vehicles, we kept true to a lot of that design elements. As our design team likes to talk about the GT line from the front to the back of the vehicle. So first and foremost, it's a beautiful car, great dynamic lines, great proportions. So I think from a visual point of view, it delivers on being an Alfa and a perfect family as that as well. And what you're also seeing in there is some of the future design direction. We talk about the Tributo in the front, the headlamp signature, the kind of 3-element headlamp signature, the continuous sine wave rear light signature. Those are some of the new elements you're going to start seeing towards the future of future products coming. Now, from a performance point of view, the base engine on this is going to be our 256 horsepower 2-liter turbo. We refer to as our GME engine. That's going to deliver, very high in-class horsepower and performance just in our base trim. But what we've done on top of that with our mid and upper level trims is we're going to be offering the plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. So we're not treating plug-in hybrid as just a powertrain alternative for fuel economy. This is about delivering the best Tonale performance, which just happens to be wrapped in a plug-in hybrid at the same time. So yes, you can do 30 plus miles in pure EV, but you can also deliver 272 horsepower, great 52-48 weight balance, our frequency selective dampening. So all the higher performing technologies that we would normally have in our higher level trim grade vehicles is in the plug-in hybrid. So we believe it's going to deliver in segment that same kind of Stelvio Giulia-ness, but wrapped in Tonale in that segment.
So, obviously the hybrid is probably going to be a bit heavier than the 2-liter version. Where will the performance be relative to the gas engine vehicle? Will it be comparable, maybe a little better?
We think it'll definitely be better because when you think about the power and weight distribution, so the 52-48, but not just that, it's how we're driving the front wheels and how we're using the dedicated electric motor in the rear. Mm-hmm. So how we drive the vehicle, all of our vehicles, so in the material for Europe, we mentioned front-wheel drive versions in Europe. We're not doing any front-wheel drive versions. Everything coming to North America will be all-wheel drive. So whether it's the gasoline or the plug-in hybrid. So our ability to deliver the power to the right wheels at the right time to deliver that great dynamic performance is going to be great on the GME engine, but it's going to be, I think, even a step above that when we talk about the plug-in hybrid.
Okay. Watching the reveal, some of the things that were talked about in there were the technology that you're putting in this. And the Giulia and Stelvio had a fair bit of technology, but I think this one really seems to step that up. Uconnect 5, some of the ADAS features. Can you talk about what the strategy is there? What are you trying to achieve on the technology side?
Yeah, so a key for us on the technology side is, we're going to be coming out at a time at the end of this year in the North American market, and the technology we've now embedded in this. We like to think of our technology as not just technology for technology's sake, Sam. It's to make sure we're enabling and making the driver's life a little bit easier. So if you want to use the L2 autonomy, you can. The ADAS features and the passive safety are there, for you all the time, as long as you leave them on. But even the way we're doing the screen technology, so we talked about the unique 12.3-inch TFT for the meter. But if you look at the design elements of it, it harkens back to historic Alfas, kind of the dual gauge with the umbrella on top of it. And how we present the information is very, what I'll call, high technology, configurable, but also very, very historic from the standpoint of harkening back to our DNA. The center screen, the 10.3-inch, you talked about the audio Uconnect, the core is the Uconnect 5. That's configurable, very high technology. But we're not thinking of the vehicle as technology wrapped around, wrapped around by a car, right? It's an Alfa Romeo first, and we try to deliver the alpha-ness in all of our technology. So we want to be very competitive with all the customer expectations tailored to being an Alfa Romeo. And a good example is we still have the mechanical DNA switch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was interesting, and of course, you also still have this the start-stop button on the steering wheel as opposed to on the dash. So those familiar with the previous Alphas will fit right in there. It's a distinctive feature of the interior. The over-the-air update capability that's going to be on this, is that limited just to the Uconnect 5 capabilities, or will that also be able to add other types of features? Will you be able to update other systems in the vehicle?
So the potential is there. We haven't fully decided the full breadth of what we're going to be doing over-the-air updates on, but the Uconnect and the HMI features, the mapping and so forth is a given. But how we manage, because we still have to work through a lot of things, what I'll say regionally relative to what can we do at the dealerships, what can be done at the customer's house, and are there opportunities in the future if there are features or services we can provide where the customer may want to pay for some of those features. Do we offer that as well? So it's going to be an evolving opportunity for us, just like the non-fungible token as well.
That's what I wanted to ask you about next, was the NFT. This is, I think to most people, the concept of NFTs is something that's come up relatively recently. I think this is the first time that I can think of that anybody has used it in relation to a new vehicle. What are you doing with an NFT with the Tonale? What does that mean to customers?
Yeah, so fundamentally, the way we're thinking about it is the first initial play is related to helping maximize the used car or the residual value of the vehicle. So by using the non-fungible token, when you get your vehicle maintenance done or updates to the vehicle, tires replaced, brake jobs done at your Alfa dealer, the NFT will be updated so you have this kind of living record that's transferable in theory to the next owner as well. You can take it. How we execute that, who we partner with, what kind of contractual relationship we have with both the blockchain technology and the customer is still being defined. Europe is finalizing theirs right now, and they launch, first commercial sales are in June. Okay. So we're about 6 months later than that. So we have a little bit more time. And the great news for us, Sam, is we're going to learn with the launch of Tonale in Europe first on how best to optimize that going into our launch at the end of the year.
Is this something, the ability to store those service records through, along with an NFT, is that going to be exclusive to any service that's done by Alfa dealers, or do you expect eventually to have some sort of mechanism for third-party service providers, both because obviously, as you know, once a vehicle gets out of warranty, sometimes customers take vehicles elsewhere, and Alfa still has a relatively limited footprint in North America, and it may be more convenient for somebody to take it to somewhere else for service. So, will there be a mechanism for that?
Yeah, it's in development is what I'd say. It's being considered. How do we do that, and how would we partner with certain nationwide chains that have that opportunity? There's also, we do find a lot of, in what I'll say, the less dense Alfa Romeo service areas, we do have relationships with our Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram dealers as well. So there might be an easier opportunity to implement that before we go to the nationwide chains. But, as we think about our future cars rolling out, our footprint of vehicles that are NFT enabled is going to increase.
Okay.
So managing that out of warranty period, and even sometimes in warranty, people don't always go to our dealerships.
Yeah.
So how can we best help them?
Yeah, I think this, for the first time, this actually seems like a potentially really useful application of NFT technology. A lot of the other stuff we've seen, people selling links to pictures of an ape, dubious value, but this actually seems like it could be really useful to customers over the long term. Is this something you expect to add to other Alfa models, either your to the Giulia and Stelvio and to future models as well?
For sure. And it comes back to, we think of, for us as a brand, from a success point of view, obviously we want to be a profitable, sustainable brand. But a key thing what we're trying to deliver on right now, Sam, is all about customer experience and customer satisfaction. So what can we do in the vehicle, outside the vehicle, over the air, at our dealers, between the brand and the customers themselves to maximize their experience? Because we know people love Alfa Romeos because they're driver cars and they're fun to drive and they're emotional. But we want to give them all of the other elements that helps ease their life and make their life better. We like to think of it in Alfa Romeo as we're building a tribe of Alfisti, right? People across the world. I mean, I'm amazed when I came into this brand almost a year ago, the level of Alfisti groups, the owners groups across the United States and even Canada and to a certain degree in Mexico, just blew me away. The loyalty going back to the 40s and 50s and 60s all the way up to modern times. So we want to expand that world of Alfistis into a very modern and new customer for us.
And who do you see as the customer for the Tonale?
So Tonale, unlike, historically, which Alfa's been an extremely male-oriented brand, 70-80% male purchasers. I'm not saying male influencers to the purchase, but actual purchase on the registration. We believe this vehicle is going to start to appeal to a much broader audience. So we are already the youngest premium brand in the United States at about 44 years old. So we're about 6 or 7 years younger than our German counterparts. So we're already drawing in low-end, younger Gen X and older millennials into the brand. So we think we can really manifest that because the millennials are very rapidly becoming the most important premium buyers in our market. So catering to them, their needs for technology, their needs for the kind of customer satisfaction we want to embed. And at the same time, moving it more gender neutral. We definitely believe we can get a higher percentage of females and women buying these cars. So we think it'll be the first vehicle for us which has maybe a slightly broader, demographic.
Okay. And obviously you haven't announced pricing yet, but can we expect it to be competitive with those German counterparts that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, we think of our brand as, we're a premium brand. We should be priced as a premium brand, delivering the premium experiences, premium services, premium vehicles, premium quality. So what I would say is we're going to be priced competitively. We have some unique technologies, unique powertrains that will come to the market as well, which will be factored into that final pricing strategy. But as our global CEO, Jean-Philippe Imperato, likes to say, Alfa's history has been, delivering that premiumness and premium experience, to a broader mass. Right? So we never want to be priced out of the market. We want to be priced where we're reachable, and attainable for people delivering on Alfa.
And one last question: how big do you see the Alfa brand potentially getting in the U.S.? do you expect it to get into hundreds of thousands of units annually? And maybe how many how big a lineup would you anticipate getting to in North America?
Yeah, so answering the latter question first, when we think about the product portfolio, we've talked about globally launching 6 all new products within now and the end of the decade. A large portions of those will come to the North American market. There's one vehicle for Europe that's smaller than Tonale that we're not interested in bringing over. But we're going to focus on the high volume profit pool kind of segments. So you're looking at C, D, E kind of segments in the North American markets. That's where we want to focus. We're not trying to be niche outside of that. From a volume point of view, the way we think of our brand is we want a brand that's going to grow organically. So we want to put the right products in the right segments, appealing to the customers, and grow the brand over time. So we're not chasing market share. We're not trying to deliver artificial demand. We want to grow that demand organically. And to do that, when you start talking about 3, 4, 5 products or more in the lineup, you could see us 100,000 plus. But where it ends up, Sam, we'll find out. The key thing is if you're growing and growing profitably, satisfying customers, every incremental volume you sell is a positive image and it's a positive contributor. So not rushing. The key thing is to get stability, get the customer loyalty where we want it to be, and grow the brand, in that organic way. And I think that's great for us because we want to stay true to the Alfa roots. We don't want to water it down. We don't want to. You've already seen, if you look back over the last year, we've tightened up our product offerings, the number of trims, the number of options. We're trying to make it the right packages at the right price, so we can limit complexity, increase the quality, and deliver a great customer experience.
Well, I for one am looking forward to getting behind the wheel of the Tonale and trying this thing out. And thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
No, it was my pleasure. Great to talk to you, Sam.
All right. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.
All right. Well, let's move on then to the rest of what was in Chicago. I think this may be the first auto show that I can recall ever being to where not a single new vehicle was shown for the first time.
Yeah, there were trims, and that was it.
Yeah.
New trims of existing vehicles.
We saw some new vehicles that had been previously released online in virtual events, like the Silverado EV, the Toyota Sequoia, the new Sequoia, but nothing. Oh, and the Bronco Raptor.
Yes.
The Lightning was there.
The Lightning was there. Yeah.
Okay. So for regular people, they can go.
For regular people, it's the first time they're going to get to see some stuff.
That's cool.
So, because in fact, I had someone who wanted to see, believe it or not, and it's not even really, he ordered a Maverick. I know, not like brand new. He hasn't been able to, other than glance at one in a dealer lot that belonged to another customer. He's like, do they have one? Because I might drive there just to see one, because I have one on order and I want to know what it actually looks like and talk to someone. Like, he lives in New York, guys, and he's considering just random Joe on Twitter. So I'm not sure if he'll do it, but yeah, he can't, just to see, like.
Why not?
Yeah.
It's a nice little trip. Chicago is a great city. I've never been there, but I've been told.
Wait. You've never been to Chicago ever?
I've driven through Chicago, which doesn't really count, at like 2 a.m. on a cross-country road trip.
Wow.
But I've never been to Chicago.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's shocking.
I went to a great Peruvian restaurant the other night.
Ooh.
Both the food and the service were excellent.
We picked it. We were trying to pick a place to eat, and we couldn't pick anything. And somebody had recommended. Actually, it was someone at Ford recommended this restaurant, and we're like, okay, let's go. So thanks, Ford. Thanks, Rhonda. It was really good. Yeah. So we went to this where I opened the menu, and normally you're in a restaurant that you haven't been to before, and a lot of the stuff, like, a steak is a steak is a steak, and then there's a couple things you don't know. I've never been to a Peruvian restaurant in my life, so I open it up and I'm like, I don't know. How about that one? Like, I had no idea what anything was on this menu.
That's exciting.
It was tasty, though. It was really yummy. Yeah, we had a nice little dinner, all of us.
The mixed ceviche was
excellent.
Yeah,
with shrimp and squid and octopus and a bunch of other stuff in there. It was really, really good.
Yeah,
anyway,
it was tasty.
back to cars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So everything that was there, we had at least seen online before, and some of it, some of us have seen at various events that the manufacturers have done. Like I saw the Silverado EV at a background briefing back in December before it was shown online during CES. They also had the new Kia Sportage plug-in hybrid, which they were again showing at a show for the first time, but they've announced everything before. Was there anything in particular that caught your attention, Nicole?
It was hard because we had seen it a lot. What I actually, there were a couple things, and I'm going to forget the name of what they called the Ram truck. They debuted a Ram 1500 that was a first responder edition. That was this brilliant bright red, but it had neat little things inside. And one of the things that I thought was cool is on the backs, I believe it was the front seats, they had like a little Velcro pad, like where you'd have it embroidered with the logo of the vehicle on a higher trim. Instead of being embroidered with the logo, it had a little Velcro thing so you could put a patch on it. Like, if you wanted to put like the patch from your department or whatever departments you served with, you could actually stick that with Velcro to the car. I thought that was kind of cool.
Were you, like the top of your back, like your shoulder blades?
Yeah, but it was it your shoulder blades? I'm trying to think where exactly it was. I guess
for me, it'd be like the bottom of my back.
Yeah, for you, it would be right above your butt, Robbie.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, and it was like a largish sort of...
I think it's just below the headrest.
Just below the headrest. So it probably wouldn't be like against it. It's going to be a little below where, for the most part, your body's going to touch the seats. So that was kind of neat. And it was it was a neat tribute edition. I thought that was kind of a cool thing to do.
I'm just thinking that one day I'm going to sit in it with you. Someone's going to sit in it with their hoodie or their sweater, and they're going to forget to put the patch in, and they're going to be trying to get
It must be the not sticky. I don't know. I guess I could have one now. If I see one of those, I'm going to have to put on my fuzziest, nasty sweater
and see if instead of the hooks on there.
You're going to I'm going to be stuck to the car.
The hooks are probably on the patch.
Probably on the patch. And the other thing that I saw that I liked, that was new, they did have a new trim of the Grand Cherokee. I don't think it was the L. I think it was just the Grand Cherokee, but forgive me on that. They had a limited black edition that gets this like blacked out front grille and really snazzy blacked out wheels that they debuted. Like they announced it that morning, the first morning of the show, and they actually had one on the floor there that looked, I thought that looked pretty snazzy. So it was just like trim packages, but those were two cool ones that stood out to me.
Yeah, the Ram is actually the built to serve Firefighter edition. They had previously done some built-to-serve trucks honoring members of the military. This is the Firefighter edition in a bright red, which is a pretty cool color. The thing that I think probably was one of the most interesting things for me was the Frontier, the 3 Nissan Frontier concepts they showed. Yeah. Sort of retro concepts. Two of them were retro. One was called the Project 72X. Named after the old Datsun 720 pickup of the late 1970s. And so it had kind of a 70s, late 70s vibe to it with the stripe and graphics package on the side. And it had white steel wheels. The wheels are actually the standard spare tire, which mounts under the back of the bed, as with most pickup trucks, is a steel wheel. So they actually just took the regular spare tire, Frontier spare tire that you buy any Frontier, you'll get one of these. They took 4 of those and painted them white and put it on there. So
they look fantastic. With the white paint on them and just being, so I was like, oh, those wheels are great. Oh, they were awesome. It looked really cool.
And then there was also the hard body edition, which had they reproduced the wheels that were on the mid 1990s Nissan hardbody pickups. Mm-hmm. If you've ever seen them, you'll recognize them. It's a pretty cool looking wheel, and of course, it had it was set up for off road. Had a lift kit on there and
fancy light bar on the back, as I recall.
Yep. Skid plates and all that stuff. And then there was also the Overland edition. It actually is the official name is the Project Adventure. But it's picking up on this overlanding theme that has caught on in recent years. So it's got all the gear racks in the bed and a pop-up tent on the top, and all this other good stuff as well.
And has
as
a
lift
cool
kit.
like decal graphic thing that kind of looks like a topographic map almost on the side of the truck, and like Max Tracks or something of the equivalent strapped to the side. Like anything you could. This is the one that if you actually did just only take this, off to your cabin, you would look like an idiot. Like just if all you do is go to your cabin, Robbie. Like if you're going to do this one, like you must go someplace where you need
better
at least
have
some
mud
of this.
on it at all times.
Even if
It better
you don't,
be dirty.
And if you don't actually go in the mud, go get like permanent mud. Like get some kind of like just spray cement on the side or something. Like make it look muddy.
You're buying dirt at the local hardware store or nursery. You're mixing it with water and you're splashing it on your truck so your neighbors
throw it on
don't.
your truck, because no one, if that truck is driving around clean, people are looking at you saying, "Oh, come on.
What a poser!"
Yeah, what a poser. It's clean. No.
Getting rocks and scratching up the skid
Right, just
plate.
scratch up the bumper a little bit. Like take some like tree branches and just make your own desert pinstriping on the side.
So, I don't think Nissan actually has any plans to offer these as production options. But aside from the wheels on the hard body concept, all of the other stuff that's on here is stuff that you can go and buy and install on your Frontier yourself anyway. So you could easily recreate any of these three concepts, including getting a set of steel wheels and having them painted and put them on your truck.
There you go.
So
yeah, they were very cool.
Steelies.
Yeah, Steelies for the win. Yeah, they were cool.
But really, I think as usual, the real winner of the Chicago Auto Show, as always, was Subaru. Even though they had no new product to show, they had their puppy corral again. They're a big supporter of the ASPCA, and on Thursday they had a whole litter of beagle puppies, and then on Friday they had Labradors. And
man,
so cute.
Subaru wins every auto show. By the way, any auto show that Subaru is at, they have like the little like camp Subaru setup usually, and then they're like, oh, here's a bunch of puppies, and then they have a big floor that like is a giant display.
Yes. There's fake snow that comes down when it has to be snowy. Like there was snow. There's snowed on you. So you could stand in the fake snow and watch the puppies. It's like, the best booth. It was amazing.
Always
it was so cool.
The best. Yeah. The Subaru's like, well, we're going to put all our money into this year. They're like, we can replace the CVT, or we could have a dope booth. A goat booth.
A dope booth with the puppies. Yeah.
But of course, there was one actual bit of news that came out of the Chicago Auto Show this year, and Larry Valiquette from Automotive News got the scoop on this one.
I couldn't read this whole story, so I'm interested to see what this story, because I heard firsthand for this too. So tell me what this story says.
Okay, so Larry was at the Nissan event on Thursday night. He was talking with Dave Sloan, who's the head of the Chicago Automotive Trade Association. It's the dealer group that puts on the Chicago Auto Show. And one of the unique things about the Chicago show, or what used to be unique, I think probably almost 15 years ago, Jeep started doing a Camp Jeep display in their booth area, where they had a big mountain, a whole kind of a simulated off-road, all-terrain thing where you could get in a Jeep. And sometimes Ram trucks and other vehicles, and test drive it, over this mountain that was, steel mountain that they built. And up until this year, the mountain that they had was a fairly steep grade. The mountain was 18 feet tall. Well, last year, for when they did the compressed Chicago Auto Show during July, Ford, because they were launching the Bronco, created their own version of this, and they called it Bronco Mountain. Bronco Mountain, they built to be 21 feet high. And, of course, this being the auto industry and a lot of people with a lot of egos, they're very competitive. Everybody always wants to one-up their competition. So Jeep came back this year with a new version of Camp Jeep, which is now 28 feet high. And it's as high as they can possibly go, because once if you go any higher than that, you can actually hit the rafters in McCormick Place.
Yes.
So They are guaranteed, at least until there's a reconstruction of the facility, that Ford will never outdo them on their driving.
Well, it was.
They're going to have it where it goes outside and then back in, and it's going to be 30 feet high.
In the roof.
So it was funny. I was actually talked to Jim Worson at Jeep. I was teasing him about this. I'm like, so I hear you guys had to build a bigger ramp because Ford built a bigger ramp. He's like, well, we built it as high as they would let us. So unless we like cut a hole in the ceiling, or maybe Ford will cut a hole in the ceiling, I wouldn't put it past him. They could do that. They could go taller. But this is as tall as you can get. And the other thing he was all hot to trot about was the angle of it. So he says that as you were coming down, you got at a 45-degree angle, which is pretty steep. Like that's like hold you in the seatbelt. Very steep. Yeah, it's hold you in the seatbelt, and the seatbelt is keeping you from face planting on the dashboard steep. So I said, okay, sure. He's like, no, prove it. So we get in, he puts on the off-road pages, and we see the angle that we're at, and he's driving to try to be like, okay, wait, we're going to see it. And we're like, I'm like, 39, 40, 41. I'm like, Jim, it's 41. He's like, no, we're getting another vehicle. This is the right way. Come on. We go again. It's like 42.
You're heckling him.
43. Yeah, I'm heckling him. I'm like, dude, it's not there. He got it to 44. He's like, I swear it was at 45 one of these times. I can't remember which one I was in. It was at 45. So, but it does have a 45 44 at least, I can confirm, angle as you're coming down. They claim 45, that 1 extra degree. But so as you come down, and it is unbelievably steep, you do feel like you're holding on for dear life.
Yeah, you're looking straight down.
You literally, I'm straight down. Like the seatbelt is all that's holding me in. Like my back is not, it could have been Velcro. It didn't matter. I'm like flying forward in the seat.
That's what the Velcro is for.
Just leaning against the front of the seatbelt. Like, please don't kill me.
44.3.
44. That is steep, people.
Yeah, that's yeah. I don't think people realize how steep when you're in a car, when you're like the degrees, like it's 20 degrees, you're like, this is a lot. And then when
if you have like a vehicle that has pages like the off-road pages they have in the Jeep, and you can see the angle that your car is going at, look at it and then think like, compare that to the number I just gave you. And if you're something like, oh, this feels terrible, I must be, oh no, I'm at 20. Yeah, wait till you get to 40. Like it's really steep.
All right. The last item we have before we get into Q&A today is it was actually something that was mentioned by a listener in a tweet. They wanted us to talk about it. Was a change that Tesla made last year in China in response to the chip shortage. Tesla, like most automakers, has had to respond to the chip shortage, and in many respects, Tesla has actually had more success here than a lot of other manufacturers. They have replaced some of the chips in their cars with other chips that are more available, but that of course requires rewriting of software sometimes, and Tesla is able to do that quite quickly, and so they were able to still have an increase in sales last year despite the chip shortage, unlike almost every other automaker on the planet. But one of the things that they did, among the things they did was they also eliminated some features, as other manufacturers done. GM has dropped heated seats and steering wheels from some vehicles. They dropped cylinder deactivation systems just so they could avoid putting the ECUs in there. One thing that Tesla did on the Model 3s and Model Ys built in China is they eliminated the controller for the secondary steering circuit. So in order to do automated driving, one of the things you have to do is you have to have fail operational capability. Because if you're going to have a vehicle that can drive around without a human behind the wheel, you've got to make sure it can do things like steer and stop, even if some of that mechanism fails. So all these vehicles now have they all have electric power steering systems, and what manufacturers have started to do is use a power steering actuator that has two independent circuits on there, coils on there, to drive the actuator. And each one has an independent controller and power supply. And if one of those fails, you can still have your steering control in there. It has lower peak power, but it can still steer the vehicle. And what Tesla did was they removed the controller for the secondary steering system, and that means that if they were to ever try to deploy full self-driving on these vehicles, I know it's a joke,
ever,
but if they were ever to try and do, if they were ever to try and do that, they would have no steering backup. So if the steering failed, unless they went back and retrofit these vehicles with that steering controller, they wouldn't have that option on those vehicles. Any thoughts on this?
Do we know for a fact, or so Tesla hasn't officially said anything, right? So we have no official statement, but the claim is that it wouldn't impact the safety. It would just, that it's fine until you want that full self-driving, and you'd have to make a service visit, right?
As long as you're never actually deploying full self-driving on the car, it's fine, because it'll be just like in the past. If your power steering failed, a human could still steer the vehicle. You just have to put more effort into the steering wheel to do it. You can still turn the wheel. It's harder. But if you don't have a human behind the wheel, now if that steering circuit fails, you don't have a backup for that, and so the car is just going to go in whatever direction it's pointed at that point.
Yeah. So for level 2, the backup is you.
Right.
Really, if it fails. At level 3, the backup is nothing. So if it's going around a corner on the freeway and you're playing, Call of Duty or whatever they have on the Tesla at that point, and all of a sudden it fails, so now the car just keeps going straight, and by the time, if you're doing 60, 70 miles an hour, now you've rammed into the vehicle next to you. There's a lot of problems because you don't have that backup for you. So that's why you have to have all these redundancies, which Tesla has talked about when they introduced their chipset. They kept saying redundancy, backup systems. But then in other parts of the vehicle, they don't have them. Like, when they only use cameras for sensors, there's no redundancy there. So this is, if the people, and it sucks because the people didn't know. Like, if you knew, you're like, well, your car's never going to have self-driving. You're like, well, you're going to take some money off of it? And they're like, yeah, sure. And you're like, all right, yeah, that's fine. But if they didn't tell people,
they're just not going to charge you the $12,000 for full self-driving.
Yeah. But if they didn't tell people that. Or maybe they will
and not tell you. But
yeah, but if they didn't tell people that they weren't ever going to get it, if it, when the system goes live eventually, maybe, who knows, that's a huge bummer, especially if you pay the $12,000, because you can get navigate on auto drive, you can get all these other like level 2 plus features on there, but you'll never get level 3 or higher because you don't have that redundancy in there. So if you're paying the $12,000, anticipating that at some point you'll have level 3, and then they're like, oh yeah, remember when they had that chip shortage? Yeah.
That's going to cost you another $1,000
because you have to bring it in, and we're going to have to put some stuff in there, and it's going to require your car be in the shop for a week and a half.
It should not be fun.
Yeah. It's the idea of not telling people is the big issue here, because if you tell somebody, you're like, hey, this doesn't have, it's not going to give, then you're like, okay, if you're really cool with that, then fine. But if, yeah,
it feels like something that they should have known ahead of time.
Yeah. It's like the BMWs without the touchscreens, or it's all of hey, you're gonna get a BMW now, but you're not gonna have a touchscreen, or you're gonna get a.
Yeah, I mean, at least other manufacturers are telling customers that, hey, we're leaving these features out, and in many cases they're actually reducing the price.
It was interesting when I was trying to build something for Audi for a story I was writing, and I don't know if it's still that way because this was maybe like a few weeks ago, but they were actually saying due to manufacturing, blah, 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 the content listed when you build the vehicle might not be what normally is always so, it might come standard with XYZ. No, X might not be there. So make sure you confirm with your dealer what is exactly in your car. So they were sort of doing this. It sounded like we may have changed some things up here. We don't want to surprise you, but we can't tell you exactly what's sitting in your dealer lot right now, which I felt was at least a good, buyer beware, check to see what it is that you have on your car.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because you wouldn't want to be disappointed. I mean, you want to know before you drive off, before you sign and drive off with the car, you want to make sure it is actually what you want.
Yeah,
All right, let's answer a couple of listener questions.
You got your question.
Magic Man 1288 asks, do you guys realize that most of the country does not have the infrastructure in place to charge EVs you spend most of your show talking about? We're years away from average Joe in flyover country to adopt one of those EVs, especially in cold climate. Love the show.
Well, I think, yes, we realize that there is not a ginormous infrastructure, but if we don't talk about EVs at all, then we're neglecting a huge number of new vehicles coming out because the manufacturers are releasing them at a pretty alarming rate. And I think as much as there's huge sections of the country where people are not really into the EV thing at all, there are huge sections where they are. So it's a little bit where you are, a little bit regional. But yeah, it's going to be a while before you can readily charge your car everywhere like you gas up your car right now. But it is something that's coming, and it is where things are moving. Like whether or not it happens tomorrow to that point or happens in 5 years, that's where it's moving. So it's just like a matter of time. So I think it's something good to talk about, because there is a lot of there's a lot of mystery around EVs. Like, we know about them, we're comfortable with them, we've been looking at them for a few years. It's like, oh, it's another one, this is what's changed. If you don't know about EVs, if you're not someone who has one or has a buddy who has one, they're sort of like scary magic things. Like, people really don't know how they work. So to sort of demystify it a little bit and to, show, yeah, there's pluses and minuses to getting one, I think is an important thing to do as the technology rolls out.
Yeah. And I think that for an EV owner, I'm going to tell you, we never, ever, ever. We have 250 free kilowatts of power from Electrify America. It came when we got it when we got the Hyundai. I have not been to Electrify America. I think the first 2 weeks we took it there because I hadn't set up. I had to set up a new outlet in our garage in order to charge the EV. We haven't been there since. In our daily life, like just driving it around, we just bring it home, we plug it in. So there, I know that EA is building out. Tesla has a really robust system especially if you're near the interstates. And yeah, it's going to take a long time for like places off, 100, 200 miles off the interstate to get like a nice, robust EV infrastructure where you can charge, while on the go. But also, I think what happens is in a lot of times, especially if you have a home, you have somewhere to charge, you just don't ever go to the charging station. The only time I'm going to charging stations now is to charge review vehicles, just because I'm charging my car. And
right.
So I have to go. I'm like, well, I charge my car. Plus I want to test, like, to make sure they do the, the 50, 150 kilowatt, that peak power they're going to get, testing that and making sure that the manufacturers are telling us the truth on that. But yeah, I know, I understand it's a weird thing for us to talk about when you're thinking like, well, and in some cases you can't even buy, like, you can't buy the MX-30 anywhere outside of California.
Right. Yeah, there's some that, unless you live in California, Robbie, you can buy whatever the heck you want.
I can do what I want.
In New Hampshire, they're like, good luck getting an EV.
Yeah. Yeah. So we talk about them just because, and again, I live in a magical land where there's an EV, charger every 10 feet at this point. But yeah, it's coming. And again, like, if you lived in Wyoming and you had an EV, chances are you would just plug it in every night. Mm-hmm. You'd have to make adjustments just like you do with gas vehicles when, for range. But yeah, unless you're driving 200 miles a day, the charging infrastructure, while important, becomes less of an issue.
Yeah, it is, for people living in the vast central part of the country, the relatively far less dense network of charging stations would make it a challenge for doing long road trips with those vehicles. But if you're using it around town, then it shouldn't be it shouldn't be much of a problem. The other thing to keep in mind as well is that if you look at where the population density is in the United States versus where the chargers are, it's around the perimeter of the country, the coast, the east and west coasts, and across the south is where most of the people actually live. And there's increasing number of chargers there. Now, yes, we do have to fill in that middle gap so that everybody else can have access, and so that you can drive cross country if you choose to, and that's happening. That is increasingly getting filled out, and all the charging network companies, EVgo, Electrify America, ChargePoint, and on, they are progressively building out more and more charging stations all the time. So, as the population of vehicles increases, so too will the population of chargers. And actually, just earlier this week, the Biden administration released the first $5 billion from the infrastructure bill to start awarding grants for building out chargers. Public charging infrastructure, which is really going to be focused on underserved areas. smaller towns, more rural areas, making sure that those places have access to charging, to try to address that gap. So hopefully over the next several years, that will be addressed more and more.
Yeah, your small towns will start getting charging stations.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yep.
But yeah, if you're a company, you want to put it where you're going to make the most money, which is right now, my house essentially, California. And then once you have the monies, then you start spreading out to areas where the adoption isn't quite as high.
Yeah.
But, chicken and egg.
It's the same thing. We had the same thing when we built out the phone network, when we built out the electrical distribution network. Rural areas tended to be the last to get served because it wasn't economically viable because there wasn't nearly as many people there. And so we had to subsidize that, through various programs. There were programs for the phone companies to build phone lines into rural areas. Same for rural electrification, starting in the 1930s. And now we're doing it for EV charging. And hopefully that will help to address the problem.
Yeah. As someone from us who grew up in a small town, I understand your pain of not getting cool stuff until later. I remember as soon as I moved to the city, I was like, look at all the things that are already here that we didn't have in the small town.
I grew up in a small town too, in the middle of nowhere, New Hampshire, and we never had anything, so I get it,
Yeah.
So I get it.
You go to a big city, you're like, whoa, look at this. I got $5.
Ooh, the big city life.
All right. The last one is from Bryn Barenshausen. Have automakers had a tradition of announcing new models long before they're going to be available, or is that more of a recent trend? It's disappointing, frustrating when you see a new EV model announced coming in 2 to 3 years.
Haven't they kind of done this for a long time? I feel like at least as long as I've been doing this, there's always something they announce that they say.
How long ago was the Bronco announced that we knew it was coming? 17, 18 years, it feels like. I remember being at an auto show doing where I worked at the time, they want us to do Facebook Live. And I'm like, hey, what do you want to see at the LA Auto Show? They're like, hey, show us the new Bronco. And this was probably 5 years ago. And I'm like, well.
I want to say they officially confirmed that they were going to build the Bronco in 2018. I think it was 2018. There were rumors. Ford built multiple concepts of it over the span of about 15 or 20 years. Especially going back to the early 2000s, there was one. There was a couple other concepts, but they never gave the green light to the program until just a few years ago. But I think this long span of 2 to 3 years is a more relatively recent phenomenon, especially in the last decade. It has accelerated. If you go back to 1964 when Ford launched the original Mustang. They showed it on a Friday, and in April, on Friday, April 17th, 1964, at the New York World's Fair, and it was on sale that same day. They started selling it that day. Of course, back in those days, you didn't have spy photos of cars, and it was a lot easier to keep a secret. These days, oftentimes, what we'll see, if we see concepts at all, concepts are often previews of upcoming production vehicles, and that's usually what we'll see, a couple of years in advance or a year in advance, and even production models, we'll typically see 9 to 12 months before it goes on sale, and it's frustrating to have to wait that long, but it takes a long time to develop vehicles, and because it's so hard to keep this stuff secret, these things are going to be out there. So they figured, well, we might as well milk it for all the publicity we can get. Go ahead and tell people now, hey, this is what we're going to build. It's coming eventually, and then when you see the spy photos, they keep just getting more attention for it until it actually goes on sale.
It does, I guess, technically generate a little excitement, if it's timed well. Well, we're all talking about it, and then we're talking about it again, and then we're talking about it again, and
Yeah.
probably does help do that.
Smart marketing is leaking a rumor that they're working on something, and then and seeing what the reaction is. They're like,
right?
Oh,
are people excited? Are they all complaining about one thing? Are they all?
They're like, oh yeah, we can adjust this.
Right.
I mean, I think the biggest EV model we're probably talking is the ID Buzz. Was it 2017 that was shown off?
Yeah.
17 or 18, I think.
Yeah. So then it's and now it'll be shown off now. So that's even 4 years, maybe 5, since it was like, hey, look at this, and you're like, oh,
amazing.
Yeah. Well, that's another one where VW's built multiple different concepts over the last 20 years of a new microbus, but none of them ever got approved for production until the ID Buzz. That was the first one that actually made it, and now they're going to unveil the production version of that on March 9th, which is less than 4 weeks away.
Yeah.
And
the buzz around the buzz,
and then it'll be at it'll be live at South by Southwest. So if you're in Austin, keep your eyes open for the ID Buzz.
You'd just be eating barbecue and touching the ID Buzz with your greasy hands.
With your greasy barbecue fingers.
That's the dream, really, to be honest.
Maybe they'll have one set up as a food truck.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
that's
that'd be fancy.
An ID Buzz food truck.
Whoa, what did I do wrong?
With an electric induction cooktop inside there running off the big battery.
Making all your barbecue.
There you go. All right. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks, everybody. And we'll talk to you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to paint their door a vibrant shade of blue. Others have the need to decorate their bathroom with fish, anchors, and other nautical items. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.